it's sort of ingrained in me that I always saw inequity. And I always said, why? And really was very frustrating for the adults in my life because I would constantly say, why?
Welcome to Inside TNA Digital, the podcast. You are in for a treat today. Today I am joined by three powerhouse nonprofit leaders, and we're going to talk about how innovative nonprofits who serve really great agendas are using innovative marketing practices, new, maybe even for-profit marketing practices in order to serve greater communities and bigger communities and take their organizations further. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my esteemed panel. So we have here Nikki Hahn, who is the CEO of Westchester, which is the Women's Enterprise Development Center. And she's also the chairwoman of the Cure JM Foundation. Welcome, Nikki.
Thank you.
Laura Rossi, who is the executive director of the New York Community Trust Westchester Division. And welcome.
Thank you.
And Erren, who is the CEO of Feeding Westchester. I want to say thank you to all of you for coming and for agreeing to share your insights with our audience. As you know, because we talked a little in the prep time, our goal here is to add kind of nuggets of insights or like give our audience the inside scoop, that's hence the name of our podcast, what they might not see about what it takes to do what you do. All right. So before we get started, I'll tell you how this was kind of brainchild and what the brainstorm behind this is. A recent article in Entrepreneur magazine, which I read because I'm an entrepreneur, was really interesting, and it's titled "Charities are Getting Down to Business." And the subhead says, "Nonprofits are struggling. That's why more charitable leaders are taking a page from their for-profit peers and learning how to make money," which I find fascinating because this is what I can see the three of you have implemented, and certainly what we do here at CNA Digital in terms of the work and the approach that we push to our nonprofit clients and friends. So that's what's kind of precipitated this beautiful topic today. Why don't each of you take a minute, tell us about you, tell us about the organization and the communities you serve. Nikki, want to start?
Sure. Okay, great. Thank you for having us all here today, first of all. My name is Nikki Hahn. I am the CEO of the Women's Enterprise Development Center, and I sit on several boards. Probably my most proud position is chairwoman of the Cure JM Foundation. It's an international rare disease foundation committed to supporting families whose children have juvenile dermatomyositis. We provide physician education and support, and also research. So we fund research around the world to support this incredibly awful disease that unfortunately one of my kids has. My work with WEDC, Women's Enterprise Development Center, as CEO, we're a nonprofit. We've been around 26, almost 27 years now, and we empower entrepreneurs to build successful, thriving businesses throughout Westchester County and the Hudson Valley.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, and we're
I think
friends.
it's awesome.
And if you like their logo, we might have done it.
Yes,
okay.
of course.
I mean, I have to kind of plug where I have to plug. Yes.
Absolutely.
Do you want to?
Sure. So I'm Erren, President and CEO of Feeding Westchester. And Feeding Westchester is the food bank that serves Westchester County. So this position has opened a lot of doors for me. I'm so grateful to say I'm a board member with the Business Council of Westchester and Nonprofits Westchester. And I serve both at the state level and the national level with Feeding New York State and Feeding America.
That's amazing. And we were just at your gala of sorts, right?
Yes, an evening in good taste.
It was beautiful.
Event of the year. We appreciate that so much. Incredible community support, a hardworking team. So we were just delighted and with how it turned out.
Oh, yeah. It was the place to be that evening. Laura, talk to us a little bit about what you do.
So I'm Laura Rossi, and I run the Westchester division of the New York Community Trust, which is celebrating its 100th year, its centennial this year. The trust was created, it was the third community foundation, I believe, created in the country as a vehicle for folks to do their charitable giving. and to build endowment for a place, for a local place. So I'm all about place. So the New York Community Trust serves New York City, Westchester serves Westchester County, and we have a Long Island division that serves Nassau and Suffolk. So I wake up each morning thinking about philanthropy and how to encourage generous folks to support our community, to invest in our community through their charitable giving and through permanent funds. And then the other part of my job is managing and stewarding the permanent funds that we do have for Westchester and making grants to great nonprofits that are doing great work, like the two ladies here, to meet needs in Westchester County.
I find that I know all three organizations, I dare to say intimately, I feel like yours has the most complex kind of system and agenda. Is that fair?
It's true. We are a 501c3, so we are a nonprofit, but we're a foundation as well. So it's a complicated message,
right,
which is where I think you're taking the conversation. And
yes.
It's and we have multiple audiences. So we have the generous donors, and we have community, the entire community and their needs, as well as the nonprofits working to meet those needs. So yes, it is a complicated, but there are about 800 community foundations around the country and many more. It's growing around the world. They were created by an aide to Rockefeller and really to John D., who lived here in Westchester, as a vehicle for everybody to give. Everybody can give. And yes, nonprofits can think like businesses, and everybody can lean in to meet the needs in the community.
Well, yeah, and I know personally, because of our work together, that you kind of believe that and believe in that philosophy. So I want to ask you all to answer the same question before we get into like some of these innovative strategies that nonprofits can and should be using in order to move the needle for their organization that kind of model, let's say, more innovative marketing, maybe for-profit marketing strategies. But before we do, what would you say is the one thing that people, from a marketing perspective, or even just from a goals perspective, what people tend not to understand about the work that you do?
I would say most people assume we only serve women, which is not true. We serve all genders. We serve about 1,200 clients throughout the Westchester County and the Hudson Valley region. But because of our name, many people assume that we only serve women. I would say that's a big hurdle we face.
Okay.
Potentially a rebrand someday.
I mean, you know who to call.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Well, the number of folks who still are unaware that hunger is a challenge here in Westchester County can be daunting at times. So lots to talk about how we bridge that gap and bring that home for folks.
Well, it's funny, when we were posting on the personal kind of social media coming off of the event, it was the one line I started with, which was, that what a misconception that kind of hunger isn't an issue in Westchester, right? We're known for affluence, we're known for,
that's right.
And that's not to say that we aren't a very fortunate county, but there's also kind of a big need here and a lot of work that you're doing.
Exactly what you said. We are a county of great affluence and we are a county of great need. So 1 in 3 of our households here in Westchester County can experience food insecurity, which means they don't have consistent access to food in the home.
Wow. Just crazy.
Fully a third. Crazy, right?
Yes,
Wow.
It is crazy.
I would say for us, it's similar to what Karen's talking about, is helping folks understand that there's need here in Westchester County. Mm-hmm. There are some of the richest people in the world who live in our county, and there's such entrenched poverty in places. And because we're a community of very hyper-local communities, the role of the Community Foundation in bridging that gaps is creative and daunting. So I would say that is one of our biggest challenges is disaggregating data around what's happening in our community, lifting up what's great, showing need, and balancing how a community foundation can work alongside our nonprofit partners and introduce people of wealth to allocate some of their resources right here in what is their backyards.
Right. So each of you, tell me a little bit about before we get in, because I think it's important to know who we're talking to and who we're serving. So we talked a little bit about who we're serving at your respective organizations. Talk to me a little bit about who you're targeting. Well, I know sometimes it's corporate donors, sometimes it's this. So talk to me a little bit about who are we trying to attract here, because it's important to learn about marketing strategies, right? But it's also important to kind of just pay attention to who our target demographic is. So let's say the two main nonprofit positions that you're holding, who are your target, who are you trying to move the needle with or communicate to the most?
Sure. So at WEDC, we're obviously always targeting clients because we exist to serve aspiring and already established small business owners. So our sweet spot is a low to moderate income demographic. So, communities are not built on the Amazons and the Walmarts and the Targets of the world, although we do love those businesses. Communities are built on the barbershop, the small corner restaurant who knows your name when you walk in on a Friday night, and those are our clients. And those are often people who don't have college education, and so they're afraid of, they're ashamed that they don't know what they don't know.
Sure.
They're ashamed to admit they don't know what they don't know, and it's really hard for them to come and seek our services. And so we are out in the community, feet on the ground, working with local municipalities to get in front of those small business owners. We are often walking the downtown streets of White Plains and Mount Vernon and New Rochelle to introduce our services to small businesses in those communities. We're obviously also reaching out to major corporations and foundations who can support our programming. We can't do it for free. And so we're very fortunate. We have the support of not only the SBA and New York State and many local municipalities, but we also have the support of most of the major financial institutions and corporations in our region. So those are our two targets. And then I'm always also looking for new trainers, because it's important to us that we have a fresh group of trainers for our clients.
Right. Do you want to talk even just for a minute about kind of one of the innovative things that we did together?
Yes, absolutely.
Recently.
Yes, recently. So just a few months ago, we held an Empower Her event here back in March. Was it March? We had 3 women on the panel talking about their entrepreneurial journeys. Elena was one of them. Thank you for sharing your story.
That was fun.
Very inspiring, and I'm still getting emails and phone calls today about the power that they felt in the room. And then we had 2 WEDC clients who are fantastic and successful in their own right. And so it was a ticketed event. We had appetizers and drinks and mixed and mingled, and then sat down for a panel conversation. It was fantastic. I hope to be able to do a repeat of it. It was really, really well done and well received by our clients.
I could see that. And so I love that you were open to kind of like more of this experiential marketing, right? Not everything can be taking over the Westchester's food court, right? Sometimes we have to get kind of deeper in. And when you were working with the team here to kind of devise a cool way to serve, and we opened up our space and the women were, and the guests were, I should say, I'm just happy to be here because we started from a basement a mile away from here, right, as a business. So just that, being open to a more innovative marketing approach. Talk to me a little bit about, and talk to our audience about, one of the most innovative ways that you feel like you're open to marketing in 2024.
I building on your theme, our target audience is across multiple demographics, right? On the development side,
right.
on the donor, on the philanthropy side. You have folks who have made their wealth, or their family has made their wealth, and they're sort of second or third generation, but they remember that they started that their forebear started in a basement, kind of thing, and are very tied into that family dynamic and that story. And then you have younger folks, like your clients, who we have our eye on, because they're going to generate the wealth of the future, and we are about being here in perpetuity and meeting the needs in perpetuity. So what we've been developing, and to your point in terms of 2024, is new types of highly curated experiences. So there are folks who have been to lots of galas and have served on nonprofit boards, and we don't want to compete with that. So we have to come up with an experience that's a little different, that's a little more intimate, that opens their eyes to something that they might not have known about, perhaps in another part of the county than where they live. And that also shows our expertise, which is because we work across so many different program areas, sort of knitting together all the parts of a community life or a person's life. So those types of experiences are the kinds of marketing or soft marketing things that we're working on.
Okay. What about you?
Well, golly, so many
It's a big
things
question.
going through my mind.
It's a big question.
When people say to me, who are your important stakeholders, my answer is generally D, all of the above.
Yeah.
So we are very, very fortunate at Feeding Westchester to be able to speak to a broad range of audiences. So we certainly focus on individual supporters. We receive both federal, state, and county funds. We have corporations, foundations, community organizations that support us. So we're really, really grateful for that. I think that what both of my colleagues are speaking about is community. And that is certainly a consistent theme at Feeding Westchester. So I want to give a shout out to our board because it's budget season. We're looking at fiscal year 25. And one of the things that I think can be overlooked is how important it is that the Feeding Westchester board has been investing in ways for Feeding Westchester team, the Feeding Westchester team, to be able to market, to be able to communicate with our different donor constituents, to be able to communicate stewardship, appreciation, and impact. That is critical. And I've worked with human service organizations across the United States in my career, dozens. And it is very unusual for a board to see the critical nature of that investment and to say to a team, what do you need to do and what resources do you need to be able to accomplish that? So I always like to recognize that. I do not ever take it for granted. So we have been able to do some really bold things, not just continue to invest in stewardship and impact messaging and cadence, but we did TV last winter. We have done canvassing, which is face-to-face solicitation of monthly donors, all really critical and all meaning that we are able to engage our community in ways that our colleagues often aren't. So it's game changing for us. It's life changing for the folks we serve.
Sure, absolutely. Actually, I'll throw it out to all three of you just as an offside. One of the things that we have here, we developed and we constantly update is this presentation of the 10 most innovative practices that nonprofits can use to kind of hit their goals. So I'm happy to share that with you kind of offline. It's just interesting to learn from some of the more successful nonprofits and just what are they doing? What's working? And one of the things I want to talk to you about next is just like creativity in hitting the objectives from a communications or marketing perspective. I know marketing is sometimes like a bad word in the nonprofit. They don't want to say that. They'll call it a lot of other things. Sometimes maybe not. Talk to me about some of the more creative approaches that you either want to take or have taken with some success. That was something that was maybe not the gala, right? Because you mentioned that, Laura, and I think about that all the time. It's a lot of the same. And one of the things that we push our nonprofit clients, but our clients in general to do is to open this up because things are changing at lightning speed in terms of the way communications are going. So what are some of the creative ways that you either want to test or you have tested recently in order to maybe change things up a little bit?
Sure, I'll jump in on this, and it just happened organically. We were not planning it, but we've been very fortunate to win several awards over the past 3 years. I was a 2022 Women in Leadership Westchester Award winner last year. Veronica Bazan, our Spanish program director, won SBA Small Business Champion of the Year. We've had 2 clients from both of our centers win New York State Entrepreneur of the Year.
Wow.
Tomorrow we're on.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Thursday we'll be in the city at the SBA office because another one of our clients is winning an SBA Champion Award. And so these things just sort of happened. We weren't planning for them. We weren't even submitting nominations. We just kind of got lucky, to be totally honest, but we've received tremendous visibility because of it. I think we were sort of thought of as Westchester's best kept secret, and I'm proud to, first of all, I was like, I don't want to be the best kept secret. If we
I want to be out there. Sure.
We're doing really good work and we're impacting the lives of tens of thousands of families across the region. I want everyone to know about us because there are other people who could benefit from our programs and services. And just organically, because of a lot of this visibility and notoriety, we've been very fortunate. We're no longer the best kept secret, and I feel like people are knocking down our door. We literally, are struggling to keep up with the demand, which I see as a good problem in the moment. But to your point, I think historically nonprofits operated from this scarcity model, and we did as much as we could with as little as we possibly could. And we're realizing that just because we're a nonprofit, we're still running a business.
That's right.
We are running businesses every single day. And we have to invest in our infrastructure and we have to invest in our people in order to do the best work that we can do.
Yeah, that's a big conversation in the field right now with
Yes.
the film Uncharitable, but it's been building. And I do think during the pandemic, when government turned to the nonprofits and said, feed everybody, keep everybody on the feet, it's like it is essential to a healthy society that we have a strong professional nonprofit sector. It is a 501c3. It's just a tax determination. It is a business, and I'm inspired by what you're sharing, because our work is. We know we're making an impact, and we thought we were the best kept secret. I just have to say. Nobody wants to be the best kept secret. We know we're making an impact when the agencies, the nonprofits that we have supported, on the grant making side, just knock it out of the park. And we are high-fiving each other because we are really making investments. Yes. You're making bets when you're a grant maker, and you're staying with it, and you're partnering with the agency and the nonprofit, and you're also, community foundations do this because we are place-based. We're strengthening the sector as a sector. Absolutely. So you talked about nonprofit Westchester and these conversations that have been having about the true cost of doing business and admin and overhead. And we feel proud that it's a great, strong, collaborative, mutually lifting up. I don't know what the word is. Everybody's sort of mutual aid, I guess. Folks champion one another. And so as the sum is greater than the parts, right? But also when some nonprofits just exceed, we are so pleased. And then we say, go forth and find other funding, yes. Which, but again, it's a great part of the work. And those are the stories we want to tell, that these are good investments. And by the way, everybody benefits. You may not know it, but the folks who are quite well off do know and need to know that local pantry is part of their ecosystem.
That's right.
And so I applaud what you're doing in terms of really bringing not only the concept of hunger, which folks, keeping that awareness, but meeting the need and telling that story is very admirable.
Agreed.
There's a ripple effect to doing good. No matter what your mission is, feeding people, educating small business owners, funding nonprofits, there's a ripple effect that happens when you put good into the world. And I think about for our clients, we support a bodega in Ossining. They're clients of ours. They hire people from their community. They are able to live, work, shop, play in their community. It raises up all of those around them. And that's what you're talking about with investing in nonprofits. That's what you're doing with feeding members of our community. There's just such a strong ripple effect to doing good.
Right.
Really, I believe that in my soul. It's
true.
It's true.
It's true. So the days of the sharp elbows and the competition are over.
Absolutely.
They really are. I mean, I'm curious about the article, but it's the sector in Westchester and nationally there's just a shift. There's a shift in mindset, and I think in sophistication and in, frankly, self-respect.
Right.
amongst nonprofits.
Right.
I love that. I think at Feeding Westchester, I consider us a mission-based business. And some of what you all have said, well, I agree with everything that you've said. There are a couple things I want to build on. The first is that we've recognized and appreciate and lift up our team. So one of the things that we ask ourselves at Feeding Westchester is, are we doing everything that we can, everything that's appropriate to ensure that the team members who are feeding this community are not also having to stand in line? The other thing that I think has changed in our industries over the decades that I've been in hunger relief, that I'm so grateful for and proud of, is that we elevate the voices of those with lived experience. Hunger and human service challenges are systemic. They disproportionately impact our Black and brown neighbors. And we have a pretty paternalistic history of determining what is best for those we serve. So we ask the folks, not just our incredible partners who actually hand out the majority of the food that Feeding Westchester distributes into the community, but we ask the folks accessing the food. We talk about things like user experience, which used to be exclusively held by for-profit corporations, but it matters to us the experience that folks have when they have the courage to access services and resources that they need. Dignity is a word that we've utilized for decades, but we don't set dignity, standards of dignity for others. We ask them, we learn from them, and then we implement.
Right. Oh. So I think the audience hopefully knows exactly why you guys are all sitting here. I think you're so impressive in the service angle of what you do for your organizations. I want to kind of move the conversation, if you're okay with it, and we're gonna circle back professionally, but I want to ask you, why do you do what you do? You're all very smart, brilliant, accomplished women who could probably do any single thing you want. I could say that. Why do you choose to do what you do? I'm gonna move the conversation into more of the how do we inspire the next generation? Because that's something that's of utmost importance to me, which is how do we elevate communications? How do we serve? And this is, if it's not evident, this is one of my ways of serving, is to get you guys together and ask you great questions and being able to be blessed enough to sit here with you. But tell me a little bit about why you do what you do.
I think I've always been a helper. I can remember my very first helping experience. I was in kindergarten and I was asked to help with a group of math students, my peers. And it felt really good. And I thought, wow, I can really contribute to whatever group I'm in. My husband was a small business owner. This is kind of the way I got into the small business entrepreneurial training sector. My husband was a small business owner. He started it from his apartment building on Bleecker and LaGuardia in grad school. He put in $500 and he and another man started this company. He built it up and sold it, and now it's in TV stations and football stadiums all over the world. It's the news ticker. When you watch the news and you see the data, scores, headlines, that was his business. And I remember how hard it was for him. He was an educated white man, living in New York City and had access to all kinds of support. And still,
it was hard.
There's no rule book.
Right.
It was hard. And when I sort of fell into this field, I thought, wow, this is amazing. First of all, we can empower people who don't believe in themselves or don't believe they can kind of own this experience. And I really love that.
That's awesome.
Absolutely love it. I have 3 daughters of my own and a son, and I hope that other people will be there to do that for them.
Mm-hmm. It's not an easy question to answer. So I will say that, like you, it's sort of ingrained in me that I always saw inequity. Mm-hmm. And I always said, why? Mm-hmm. And really was very frustrating for the adults in my life, because I would constantly say, why why are all the black kids being bussed in? Why? Why is it like that? I'm just being candid.
No,
right?
you should be
It
candid.
sort of had this heightened sense of social inequity and social justice. At the same time, I grew up in a single-parent household. My dad died when I was 2. My mom struggled, became an entrepreneur,
Oh, I love that.
and raised us, but got a lot of help because it's really hard to do it by yourself.
Sure.
From family and from friends. And so I grew up knowing that helping is good and being the beneficiary of that, and with this sense of paying it forward. So why do I do this? That's a whole long story. I am a recovering attorney. I think why I stay in it is because it's not easy. I think that's really the drive, is like, there's got to be a way, right?
Sure.
What's the way today that I can marshal resources? What's the next goal? Because
Right.
I think I'm always moving the goal a bit, but also believing that, it's a worthwhile
Endeavor. Sure.
endeavor. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I always love this question. I started out in corporate advertising and marketing. I loved the work, but I don't care what bank you use. I don't care what real estate agent you use. I don't care what cell phone you use. So there was a disconnect with the product. And I call it my zigzag career path. It was messy. Ask me sometime about waiting tables. I always know I can go back to that if I have to, though hopefully that's a little further away than it once was. And I remember so clearly when I landed in food banking, like I feel emotional about it. These are my people. Very transparent about what we do well. Very transparent about what we do very badly. After what I had experienced as I called it boxing at shadows, saying one thing in the corporate advertising and marketing world and doing another. It was gaslighting frequently is what I experienced. And so that authenticity was just such a relief for me. And then I think, like these two fabulous women across from me, have a deep-rooted appreciation and gratefulness, because there but for the grace of God go I, who was a single mother, but I came from a life of privilege. And so it's another reason why I pay very close attention to the balance of power, what is driving my decision making, because I get to do this work, and the folks that we serve have to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Yes. Yes. Oh, don't make me cry. Or make me cry. It's okay. I think it's a beautiful testament to, and it is, it's a lot of work. And, even from my perspective, when you have the ability to have beautiful people like yourselves in this room, like, I feel like that's a privilege. And I think one of the things I want to talk about now that we know kind of the why is, another objective, or we call it a desired outcome here, that I have personally is, how do I take what I've learned and help the people behind me, right? Yeah. Generationally. Because when I was growing up, I didn't understand this type of career was possible, never mind entrepreneurship. My dad was an entrepreneur, but like in comms, in marketing. So, and when I worked at my first large ad agency, nobody looked like me. So I was like, wait, where are all the brown people? Wait, any black people here? I grew up in the city, and this is my community. But when I went into work, I didn't see that. And then the more I learned about the industry, the more I learned that it wasn't an option for most. And it certainly wasn't presented to me. And I was a pretty high achieving student. So I thought, okay, well, if I ever rise high enough, I will try to help as many people as I can, at least understand it's an option, right? That's part of my duty. So what would you say you would tell, or what do you feel about the future of the generations that come next? what would you say to them about your field or your area? What inspiration? What do you feel like? Do you feel like it's bright? Do you feel like it's challenged? Tell me your thoughts there.
So I mentioned I have 4 kids, and so I'm around college kids and teenagers a lot, and I've served as a mentor for her on her mentoring, and so I've worked in that capacity with young adults and teenagers. And with our clients, we have the same experience. When you said, what would you say? I would say, yes. I am forever the optimist, and I would say anything is possible. And people just need to know that it's possible. I think, like, in my mind, that's the biggest hurdle, is just understanding that whatever you can think or dream or imagine, yes, it's possible. And there are people there who can help you. I believe in it in my soul. I grew up with not as much as I'm so blessed to have now, and many people helped me along the way. And I would say, yes, it is possible.
So your question is, what would I say?
You can either, what would you say to them, maybe to inspire them, or what are your thoughts about? Do you feel challenged when you look back and you say, this area that I'm in, I don't see too many young people striving to be leaders here. Like sometimes people fall into careers versus aim for them. So one of the things that I look to do is to put light in dark spaces, so you don't fall here, but you choose here, right? Intentionally. Because sometimes you fall somewhere because there was no light there. So I'm just saying, like, I don't know, does it feel bright? Does the future feel bright for young people who are going to be the generation after you?
Yes. I think the caveat is, that they not be overwhelmed by all the news that they're getting on their phones. So I too am around young people, and and I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, that's fair.
What I would say is what was told to me at a low moment was, kid, you have a good head on your shoulders, and you can always ask for help. You'll be fine. And sometimes the simplest things like that, that stuck with me. It's like, oh, okay, one foot in front of the other. I will say that some of the young people that I've been fortunate enough to interact with lately, because we have a scholarship program, and I met a young woman from Ossining who just had such a bright future. I didn't know what to say. That was the thing. I'm like, this kid is going places. Hopefully I'll be able to help them. And that is because of a whole lot of infrastructure that's lifting them up.
Okay.
So I guess it's not for me to say, I'm sorry, other than if I were to be asked, I would just be encouraging. That was a hard question, Elena.
I have to.
Full of hard questions.
So I absolutely love this concept that you just referenced, which I refer to as bringing shadows into the light. Yeah. And I'd like to take a little bit of a different approach to your answer. What I am actually planning to tell young people is that success looks different for everyone. And for us, the 4 of us sitting around this table, it is tied to leading an organization or company. But there is great value in a broad range of positions. And so my advice to anyone, because I talk to a lot of people who are changing careers, is listen to your gut always. It will not steer you wrong. And just because we live in a culture that says a CEO position is better in some way, that is not accurate. One of the things I talk to our team about a lot, and you can imagine in COVID this was front and center, is that Erren, the CEO, doesn't come to work today. Business continues as usual. If our frontline folks aren't able to come to our distribution center, we can't fulfill our mission, and people don't get fed. So my encouragement to anyone when they think about their life and the role that their career or job plays in their life is that you will know what's best for you, and it may or may not be tied to title.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Well, I'll share my 2 cents, which is
Great.
that irrespective of like what either someone who's changing career or thinking about something different, or a young person kind of trying to think about what they want for their future, I would say the thing that I would say is aim as high as you possibly can and go for that dream, and then always look back down and around, right? And so like today, I want to just thank all of you for being part of my looking around and trying to find inspiring leaders in the community who are powerhouses, but also understand the power of giving. It is, we're a innovative, sharp marketing company, but we're a softie. And so I want to thank each and every one of you for joining. And I want to thank you for sticking around and hanging out with us. Catch us on YouTube and Apple Music, and we'll see you next time.